was cloaked in an oppressive darkness, the kind that seems to swallow everything whole. The only sound came from a haunting melody playing faintly in the background, a tune so eerie it felt like a warning bell tolling for something sinister yet to unfold. It wasn't just music. It was a heartbeat of dread, pulsing through the silence and wrapping itself around my senses. I lay there on the bed, deep in slumber, oblivious to the storm brewing inches away from me. But then, out of the corner of my subconscious, I sensed movement, faint but deliberate. My mind tried to brush it off as a dream, but the unease lingered. Someone was standing beside the bed, their presence radiating anxiety and fear. I couldn't see them, not yet, but I could feel their eyes boring into me, filled with desperation. They weren't here by chance. They had purpose, though I didn't know what it was. A whisper sliced through the air, trembling and urgent. "We have to change everything. Right now." The voice was barely audible, almost drowned out by the relentless rhythm of the music, but its weight hit me like a freight train. Time itself seemed to be closing in, each second ticking away faster than the last. Every fiber of my being screamed that this moment was pivotal, that if nothing changed immediately, catastrophe would follow. And yet I remained frozen, trapped between sleep and wakefulness. Who was this person? Why were they here? What did they mean by change? Questions swirled in my head, but no answers came. All I knew was that the atmosphere was suffocating, charged with tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. The shadows seemed alive, shifting menacingly at the edges of the room, mocking my inability to act. Suddenly, the music crescendoed, sharp and jarring, pulling me closer to consciousness. My heart pounded violently against my chest, as though trying to escape the nightmare before reality fully set in. Something was terribly wrong, and I could feel it in my bones. This wasn't just another ordinary night. It was the beginning of something far darker, far more destructive. The oppressive darkness of the room began to lift as my eyes adjusted, though the weight of dread still hung heavily in the air. The haunting melody from earlier had faded into an unsettling silence, leaving only the sound of our uneven breathing. I turned my head slowly, my vision blurry but enough to make out the figure beside me. My wife, or at least the woman I thought I knew, sat there, her silhouette faintly illuminated by the dim light seeping through the curtains. She looked different. Her usual calm demeanor was replaced with something else: anxiety, guilt, or perhaps fear. Whatever it was, it made my stomach churn. I sat up abruptly, rubbing my temples as if trying to erase the remnants of some half-remembered nightmare. But this wasn't a dream. The tension between us was all too real. "Why does it take you so long?" I asked, my voice rough with exhaustion and suspicion. My gaze locked onto hers, searching for answers she clearly didn't want to give. "Every time you sleep outside the house, it's not just about rest anymore, is it?" Her body stiffened at my words, and for a moment she seemed unable to respond. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled like brittle glass on the verge of shattering. "You wouldn't understand," she whispered, avoiding my eyes. "It costs me so much every single time." "Costs you?" I repeated, incredulous. My mind raced with possibilities, each more alarming than the last. Was she referring to money? Or was it something deeper? Something far more damaging? Her evasiveness only fueled my growing unease. "Explain it to me then," I pressed, leaning closer. "What exactly are you paying for?" She hesitated, biting her lip nervously. For a fleeting second, I thought she might break down and confess whatever secret she'd been harboring. But instead, she shook her head, her expression hardening slightly. It's complicated, she muttered, almost under her breath. And it's none of your business. That struck a nerve. None of my business? After everything we'd shared, after years of building a life together, how could she dismiss me so easily? Anger simmered beneath the surface, mingling with the hurt swelling inside me. None of my business? I echoed, my tone sharper now. You're my wife. How can anything involving you be none of my concern? The room felt smaller somehow, the walls closing in as the distance between us widened. I studied her face intently, looking for any trace of the woman I once loved, the one who used to laugh freely, who trusted me completely. But that person was gone, replaced by someone guarded and distant. It dawned on me then, with crushing clarity, that she was hiding something significant, something that threatened to unravel everything we had built. You've changed, I said quietly, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. Ever since these nights away started, you've been different, distant, like you're living two separate lives. My voice cracked slightly, betraying the vulnerability I tried so hard to conceal. Is there someone else? Is that what this is about? For a brief moment, panic flashed across her features before she quickly masked it. No, she exclaimed, perhaps too quickly. There's no one else. You're imagining things. But her denial rang hollow, like a fragile lie teetering on the edge of collapse. I wanted to believe her. I truly did. But doubt gnawed relentlessly at my resolve. The air grew heavier, suffocating, as unspoken truths lingered between us. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. It was the beginning of a fracture neither of us might recover from. The fragile thread of silence that had barely held us together snapped violently when the phone rang. It was a shrill, piercing sound that sliced through the stillness of the night like a knife cutting glass. The sudden intrusion felt unnatural, almost malevolent, as if it were deliberately designed to shatter what little peace remained between us. I watched my wife freeze, her body stiffening instantly at the noise. Her face paled further, a ghostly white that made her look like she'd seen something unspeakable. She hesitated for a moment before reaching out to grab the phone, her hands trembling so badly that I thought she might drop it. Who could be calling at this hour? I muttered under my breath, though loud enough for her to hear. She didn't respond, only stared at the screen with wide, terrified eyes. When she finally answered, her voice quivered uncontrollably. Hello? There was no clear reply from the other end, just an eerie mix of heavy breathing and distorted static, interspersed with faint, unintelligible whispers. Whoever, or whatever, was on the line seemed more like a shadowy presence than a person. My wife's expression shifted rapidly from confusion to panic, her knuckles whitening as she gripped the phone tighter. She tried again, desperation creeping into her tone. Hello, can you hear me? I leaned forward, my pulse quickening as I scrutinized every detail of her reaction. Something about this call wasn't ordinary. It carried an ominous weight, one that pressed down on both of us. Her lips moved silently, as though she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Then, without warning, the line went dead. The abrupt silence that followed was deafening, leaving behind an emptiness so profound it felt suffocating. She lowered the phone slowly, her movements mechanical as if she were in shock. That's when I noticed how violently her hands were shaking. Who was that? I demanded, my voice sharp with suspicion. Why are you acting like this? What's going on? Her mouth opened, then closed again, unable to form coherent sentences. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away furiously, refusing to let them fall. I, I, I don't know, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. It was just strange. Strange? I echoed, incredulous. You're pale as a sheet, your hands are shaking, and you expect me to believe it was just strange? Who called you, and why did they hang up like that? She shook her head frantically, clutching the phone to her chest, as if it might protect her from whatever unseen force had invaded our home. I swear, I don't know who it was, she cried, her voice cracking under the pressure. It wasn't anyone I recognized. Maybe it was a wrong number or... A wrong number? I interrupted, my anger flaring. At this time of night, don't insult my intelligence. The tension in the room reached a fever pitch, each word we exchanged driving another wedge between us. As much as I wanted to dismiss her explanation as genuine fear, there was something about her demeanor that didn't sit right with me. Was she lying? Or was she genuinely as frightened as she appeared? Either way, the unanswered questions loomed over us like storm clouds, threatening to unleash chaos at any moment. And yet, despite her denials, I couldn't shake the feeling that this mysterious caller knew something. Something that implicated her in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. The void left by the disconnected call felt alive, pulsating with secrets too dangerous to uncover. Whatever it was, it had shaken her deeply. And now, it was beginning to unravel me. The morning unfolded like a slow-motion disaster, each moment stretching longer than the last. My wife's rejection of intimacy wasn't just casual. It was calculated, deliberate, as if she were putting up an invisible barrier between us. When I leaned in for a kiss, her hand shot up to stop me, cold and firm. Not now, she said sharply, her tone devoid of warmth. I need to freshen up first. But it wasn't just about brushing her teeth or washing her face. No, this felt different. She clarified with a chilling finality. I need to do my morning routine. Alone. The word alone hung in the air like a dagger, piercing through whatever fragile connection we had left. Her refusal wasn't merely physical, it was emotional. A clear signal that something had shifted irrevocably. My mind raced back to the mysterious phone call from earlier. The heavy breathing, the panicked look on her face, the way she clutched the phone like it might betray her secrets. And then there was the name. Brian. It slipped out during one of her muttered responses, barely audible but enough to send alarm bells ringing in my head. Who was he? A friend? An acquaintance? Or something more sinister? As if sensing my growing suspicion, she tried to backtrack, her voice trembling slightly. It's not what you think, she began, but the damage was already done. The cracks in her facade were widening, exposing glimpses of a truth she desperately wanted to conceal. Brian promised to take me to the most expensive restaurant in the city, she admitted reluctantly, almost as though the words were being dragged out of her against her will. Her admission hit me like a punch to the gut. Expensive restaurants? Lavish promises? None of these were things I could offer her. Not because I didn't care, but because our life together had never revolved around material excess. We built our relationship on trust, laughter, and shared dreams, not champagne flutes and five-star menus. Yet here she was, throwing those years away for someone named Brian, whose very existence mocked everything we stood for. All this, is it really about money? I asked, my voice low and strained. Or is it him? The question burned inside me, relentless and unyielding. Was I losing her not to wealth, but to another man? Had she grown tired of simplicity, of the quiet comfort we once cherished? These thoughts consumed me, gnawing at my resolve until I felt raw and exposed. She avoided my gaze, fidgeting nervously as though searching for an escape route. "You're overthinking this," she said weakly, but her words lacked conviction. "Brian's just a friend." He offered, and I didn't want to be rude. "A friend?" I echoed, incredulous. "A friend who makes extravagant promises and takes you places I can't afford? That doesn't sound like friendship to me." Her silence spoke volumes. Each second stretched into eternity, filled with unsaid accusations and simmering resentment. I couldn't shake the image of her sitting across from Brian in some candlelit restaurant, laughing at jokes I would never tell, basking in luxuries I couldn't provide. Was that where her heart truly lay now? Had she replaced me with a man who could shower her with gifts while I struggled to keep us afloat emotionally and financially? The betrayal cut deeper than any knife ever could. Not only was she pulling away from me physically, but she was also erasing the foundation of our marriage, one careless decision at a time. Every glance, every word, every evasion added fuel to the fire burning within me. I realized then that this wasn't just about Brian or money. It was about loyalty, respect, and the fragility of love when tested by greed and temptation. The moment I stepped out of the bathroom, still damp from hastily washing my face, the world around me seemed to tilt on its axis. My heart froze mid-beat as my eyes landed on a figure sprawled across our bed. Our bed. The man lying there wasn't me, and he certainly wasn't supposed to be here. He looked up lazily, his expression calm but tinged with an unsettling smugness that made my blood boil instantly. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking with barely contained rage. "And why are you in my house?" He sat up slowly, deliberately, as if mocking my distress. "Relax," he said smoothly, flashing a grin that felt like sandpaper against my already frayed nerves. "I'm just a friend of your wife's." "A friend?" I spat, incredulous. "You're sitting on my bed, a married man's bed, and calling yourself her friend? What kind of twisted game is this?" His smirk faltered slightly, but only for a second. Then it returned, sharper this time, more calculated. "Look, buddy, don't shoot the messenger. She asked me to cover for her while she went out, that's all." My mind reeled at his words. Cover for her? Went out? The implications hit me like a freight train, each one heavier than the last. Where had she gone? Why did she feel the need to sneak away without telling me? And most importantly, why had she chosen him, a complete stranger, to orchestrate this charade? Panic clawed at my chest as I scanned the room, searching desperately for any sign of her. But she was nowhere to be found. "Where is she?" I shouted, my voice cracking under the weight of betrayal and confusion. "Why would she leave without me? Answer me!" The stranger shrugged nonchalantly, as though my anguish meant nothing to him. "Beats me," he replied coolly. "She didn't want you involved. Said you'd make things complicated." Complicated. The word echoed in my head, sharp and mocking. Was I really so difficult to deal with that she felt the need to lie, scheme, and bring another man into our lives? Each syllable felt like a dagger piercing deeper into my pride, shredding what little self-respect I had left. I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to lunge at him. "So, let me get this straight," I growled, taking a step closer. "You're here because she told you to distract me? To keep me busy while she runs off God knows where with someone else?" His casual demeanor cracked ever so slightly, revealing a flicker of guilt beneath the surface. Hey man, I didn't ask for this gig, he muttered defensively. She begged me to help. What was I supposed to do? Say no? Say no! I exploded, my voice thundering through the room. That's exactly what you should have done. Instead, you waltzed into my home, into my marriage, and helped her destroy everything we've built together. For a brief moment, silence hung between us, thick and suffocating. His earlier confidence wavered, replaced by unease. Perhaps he hadn't anticipated the depth of my fury, or maybe he hadn't fully grasped the gravity of his actions until now. Either way, his presence was unbearable, a constant reminder of how far my wife had strayed. As the reality of the situation sank in, despair began to overshadow my anger. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd shared, after every promise we'd made, she chose deception over honesty, betrayal over loyalty. It wasn't just about the stranger in my bed. It was about the unraveling of trust, the shattering of love, and the realization that I might never truly know the woman I married. The air was thick with betrayal, each breath I took laced with the bitter taste of shattered trust. My hands trembled as I clenched them into fists, my knuckles white from the effort to contain the storm raging inside me. Enough was enough. I wouldn't live like this anymore. The lies, the secrets, the endless charade had stripped away every ounce of love and respect I once held for her. I can't do this anymore, I said, my voice cutting through the silence like a blade. It was cold, steady, but beneath it lay a reservoir of pain so deep it threatened to drown me. I'm done. Leave my life for good. Her eyes widened in shock, tears spilling uncontrollably down her cheeks. No, please, she begged, her voice cracking under the weight of desperation. Don't leave me, I'll change, I promise. Just give me another chance. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. Every word out of her mouth felt hollow, meaningless, a feeble attempt to patch up something that had been irreparably broken. How could I believe her when all she'd ever offered me lately were lies? She reached for my hand, but I pulled away sharply, recoiling as if her touch burned. It's too late, I spat, turning my back on her. You made your choice when you brought him into our home, when you chose Brian over me. The name tasted like poison on my tongue. Go after him. He's the one you've been running to, isn't he? He's the reason we're here now. She shook her head violently, her sobs growing louder, more frantic. No, it's not true. You're wrong about him. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, I roared, spinning around to face her. Explain how I woke up to find some stranger in our bed while you disappeared without a trace. Explain why you've been sneaking around, making plans behind my back. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, she collapsed onto the floor, her body shaking with grief, or perhaps guilt. Watching her crumble should have given me satisfaction, closure even. But instead, it left me feeling empty, as though the final threads holding us together had snapped, leaving only ruin behind. Get out, I whispered, my voice barely audible now. Take whatever you want, but don't come back. I never want to see you again. For a moment, she sat there frozen, staring at me as if trying to process what was happening. Then, slowly, she stood up, wiping her tears with trembling hands. Fine, she murmured bitterly. If that's what you really want. As she walked toward the door, I caught a glimpse of the woman I used to love. The vulnerability in her eyes, the way her shoulders sagged under the weight of regret. But it was too little, too late. Whatever we'd shared was gone, replaced by anger, hurt, and an unbridgeable chasm between us. The night air was biting as she bolted out of the house, her sobs echoing into the darkness. Her cries for Brian were desperate, frantic, a woman clinging to the last shred of hope that had somehow become tangled up with him. But when she finally found him standing under a dim streetlight, his demeanor shattered whatever fragile illusion she'd been holding on to. "What do you want now?" he asked coldly, his voice dismissive and devoid of concern. "I told you I'm done cleaning up your messes." Her face crumpled at his words, tears streaming uncontrollably down her cheeks. But, but you promised. You said you'd take care of everything." Brian sighed heavily, shaking his head as if dealing with an inconvenience. "Look, I never signed up for this drama. You got yourself into this mess, not me. Don't drag me down with you." With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving her alone in the cold, her pleas falling flat against the empty streets. Back at the house, silence reigned supreme. The emptiness of the rooms pressed down on me like a suffocating weight. Every corner seemed to whisper reminders of what we once had, and how thoroughly it had unraveled. I sank onto the couch, my mind racing with questions I couldn't answer. How had it come to this? When did love turn into lies, trust into betrayal, and partnership into chaos? I stared blankly at the wall, replaying every argument, every lie, every moment of doubt. Each memory felt like a shard of glass piercing deeper into my heart. The woman I loved, the one I thought I knew, was gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. And now, even the remnants of our shared life lay scattered around me, broken beyond repair. As the minutes ticked by, the haunting melody from earlier returned, creeping through the house like a ghost unwilling to leave. Its mournful notes wrapped around me, amplifying the desolation I felt. It wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the death of everything we'd built together. Finally, the lights flickered once, then twice, before plunging the room into total darkness. The sudden absence of light mirrored the void inside me, a gaping chasm where love and trust used to reside. Sitting there in the pitch black, I realized there would be no redemption, no second chances. This was the end, not just of us, but of who I thought I was within this relationship. Why didn't I see it sooner? I whispered aloud, though there was no one left to hear me. How did everything fall apart so completely? There were no answers, only the lingering echoes of what once was. As the music faded into silence, I sat motionless, enveloped by the weight of failure and regret. For the first time, I understood that some things could never be fixed, only endured. Some people leave scars, others leave lessons. Burn and reborn stories that break you, then rebuild you.